For the first time in history, we're turning more towards women's health. We're turning more towards women's bodily autonomy, which is phenomenal. We're talking about women's sexual health as more than just pregnancy and birth delivery, but we're not talking about men's health. We're letting these men kill themselves.
My name is Ashanti, and welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast, where men get real. Men of all ages and backgrounds come to this space to talk about the masks we wear. Today, sharing his mask is John Feldkamp. You know, the mask is a representation of what we let the world see on the outside and the things that we don't talk about on the inside. John, on the outside, he's a medical student in the state of Ohio. He believes in the importance of health. And in this episode, we talk about not only physical health, when do we go as men to go get help and support with our physical health? He also talks about mental health and when do we go and get support around our mental health? Now, he tells a joke in there, and I don't want to rephrase it, but it really was interesting about when do we as men go and get ourselves checked up? When do we as men go get ourselves checked up? Do we have to be forced by our friends or our partner when they like, hey, it looks like your leg is falling off. You may want to go get that checked out. Or do we say, I'm feeling something, I'm going to go see something. And maybe there's all different types of people who navigate pain and navigate discomfort in different ways. You know, me personally, I have a high tolerance for pain, I think. So when something happens, I'm like, I'll take care of it later. That'll get better later. And now I'm realizing that maybe I've let some things go too long. I've let some things take longer than they should. And especially around mental health. You know, I have been talking about it for a little while. I set up one account somewhere and then things were happening online that didn't work with me and I didn't follow through with it. And now I'm like, okay, we need to go ahead and make that happen. And it's really important, right? Because I think that not only do we need to be managing our physical health, which is absolutely how we move our bodies moving and getting through the healthy things that we need to get through, it also requires us to make sure that our minds are working. If your profession requires you to be alert and paying attention more, like maybe there are things that are happening that are overwhelming you. And I think taking care of our mental health is super important. So in this conversation with a doctor, he doesn't give me any medical advice, but we do talk about mental health. We do talk about physical health. And we made a commitment. I made a commitment that I'm going to go ahead and get signed up for this plan that we have. We have a free resource for you, our listeners, even from BetterHelp, a 1-month free membership. And I think that if you've been wanting to test it out, if you've been wanting to try it and see how it works or feels, you should check it out. Link is in our bio. It's no cost to you for 1 month. And maybe you'll find someone that really aligns with what you've been looking for. So see the link in the bio to get signed up for that. And I encourage you to be mindful of your own well-being and health. And how do we help our young men in our community also when they're hurting, not tell them to walk it off and suck it up? And like, how do we make sure that we are teaching them about taking care of themselves in a healthy way? Because I think it's necessary. I think it's important. It's critical. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with John Feldkamp. I hope that that it inspires you to do whatever you need to do for your own physical and mental health. And I hope that if this episode encourages you, please share it with somebody who could benefit from it. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. And listen, if you haven't made a mask, you can still make your mask anonymously at millionmask.org. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. We'll see you soon, folks. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast, John Feldkamp. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Ashanti.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here, man. Listen, would you let the audience know what is it you want them to know about you? what would be helpful for them to understand as we jump into these conversations about masks?
My name is John Feldkamp. I am a first year, well, now actually a second year medical student at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine here in Cincinnati, Ohio. On the men's work side, I am the men's health director of men's health initiatives at Hey Brother Co. I write, I help facilitate, we organize retreats together for men. I'm also a loving brother. I am a writer for specifically Hey Brother Co. and kind of my own individual stuff. Within medical school, I've got research interests in men's health. I'm hoping to go into emergency medicine. I have, Ashanti, I have deep interests in the well-being of men. I think that we're not doing so hot on the healthcare front. So I would like it to be a part of my professional identity at some point. I think those are the most relevant items.
Thank you for saying that. And maybe that I was having a hard time thinking about the word on the back when you said that. And the health of men is so also important to me. I do it through young men, and knowing that I've seen older men in my life, or that are not in my life, just out in the world, who I just wish were able to find a way to be more healthy in all the ways, right? Not just physically healthy, emotionally healthy, socially healthy, financially healthy, all the ways that health shows up. So thank you for naming that. And I think I now know what I'm going to add. That last word I was leaving, I had a blank there. So
that's awesome.
You get to decide who goes first. You as the guest, you get to decide. Do you want me to go first with the mask, or do you want to go first? And once you decide, then we're in.
Okay. I was thinking about this and I was like, well, I kind of don't want to go first. And I was like, that's the exact reason why I should go first.
Okay.
I think it was like Will Smith in a video, in a speech once, he said, if you're going to do something, do it scared. So I'll do that. All right. You want to see the front first?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So here we go. So I'll just show you. So I drew my resemblance of like a clown mask, right? It's sort of this goofy little looking thing. It's actually a little creepy now that I think about it. My 3 words are strength, joy, and confidence. And I specifically chose a clown mask because I feel like I can often be comedic relief for a lot of the people around me. It's often that I'll choose other people's happiness and joy over my own in a self-sacrifice kind of way, which is not necessarily a bad thing until it becomes one. And I think we're so, as men, because our value is so much determined by our productivity or what we can give to other people, I find it so natural to step into that role, which can actually be pretty harmful. So that's why I put joy on there. I think that at first I was like, why do I want to put joy in front of the mask? And then I was like, no, it's because I try as hard as I can to create joy, sometimes at the detriment of myself. Strength finds its way on there because my entire life I've been an athlete. I've been a football player, a hockey player, a rugby player, everything you can imagine with a ball or bodies in it. I've been in that. I was a powerlifter in the last year. I actually would love to talk about this at some point, but I herniated a disc in my spine. Now I have this chronic right leg pain that's following me. For the last year, I had a surgery that was largely unsuccessful in treating that pain. It's become a big part of my identity, and especially as a budding physician, a better understanding of my patients who are in pain. And then the last word is confidence. In my medical school class, I have to say that is something I take a lot of pride in, is I'll go up and do something wrong. I'm happy to go up there and make a mistake if it means that we all get to learn something. And with that, sometimes it's forgotten that I don't always feel like I know all the answers, but I will go up there. I will do what I can in terms of representing energy, frankly, bringing that to any situation, and confidence. I'm definitely the first one dancing at any event. I'm swinging people around. I'm getting people involved. But yeah, that's my front.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. When you talked about strength, that one that stood out to me, I'm gonna add that one to the front here. I don't always wonder if I share it, but I'm going to talk about it when I get into it. So the 3 that are showing up today, this is the mask. This is
lovely.
This character I'm trying to work on. Funny, serious, hardworking, and I put strength there in between funny and serious. And funny happens to be first today. I don't know if funny is always first, or if it's I don't think I always lead with funny. I like to laugh. I love to laugh. Like I am. Like I want. Like when I get into my social media strolls, it's usually funny stuff that's keeping me scrolling, right? Like I'll just be laughing. I'm like, oh, that feels so good. And then laughing, and then laughing, and then just like, what? And then like I enjoy laughing. I enjoy humor. And I think it's because I'm always in the work. It's usually a lot serious. I mean, sometimes teenagers can be funny, so they give me some time to laugh too. But a lot of the work, the deeper part of the work, is this seriousness of like trying to run an organization, seriousness of trying to make sure we have enough resources, serious of making sure that we're going to grow at the right level next year. Like all the things that, like, the seriousness is where I think I'm feel the most comfortable. And every once in a while, I give myself room to be funny, you know? I think there was this one student when I was a teacher. She used to always come into class usually Mondays, but definitely other days. And she would be like, "I'm trying to get ready, And she's like, "Hey, so what'd you do this weekend?" And I'll be like, "Get out my business. Get out my business. What you mean? You know, like, what do you know? Did you see me somewhere or something? You know, like, I ain't always a teacher. You know what I mean? So I was like wondering why she's at, but she was really just trying to like kind of do a litmus test of how the day was going to be, right? She was like the whisperer for everybody. He's in a good mood today, or he's in a, like, she would be like, "Why are you so serious all the time?" I'm like, because this work is important, right? Yeah. And she was always like the levity in the space, and I really appreciate Natasha for that, her desire to kind of go deeper. And hardworking is one that I think is often I talk about a lot. And I wonder, when I think about strength, when I think about like I work really hard, I wonder, like, I wonder if it would be easier, like, as a leader, it's probably easier to work less. That's what I hear entrepreneurs say. You have to learn how to delegate. You have to learn how to like not do so much. You shouldn't be running around in circles. You shouldn't be running around like doing all these things. You should be leading people to do them. And I'm like, I'm much better at doing them. I'm not as good at telling people what to do. I think oftentimes when I'm telling people what to do, it's coming out of this serious tone, and people take it the wrong way, right? And I'm like, okay, I got to find some balance in there, because I know that the dream I have, I can't do it all, so I have to be able to pass the message on to people. So those are the things that I think are on the front right now.
Strength, hardworking, they go together, don't they?
Yeah.
I think back on I was just listening to your episode from the Man Enough podcast, and Jamie Heath is talking to you about mentors and setting a precedent and what it means to take care of yourself. And like, you can't have that hardworking, you can't have that strength without taking care of yourself. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to sit with that. And that one I had to like pause and play back. I was like, wait a minute. And that is leadership, right? That is mentorship. And to me, I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm one of those people who's like, nah, don't put me in a group project. Like, let me do it. Let me. And that always gets me in trouble. I am one of two co-presidents of my medical school class, which has been a blessing and a curse in many ways. It's an honor to lead my peers in that capacity, but leadership means setting a precedent, Ashanti, which is often very difficult because we do make mistakes, believe it or not. As a mentor, you will make mistakes. And as a leader, I will make mistakes. As a mentor myself, I'll make mistakes. I mentor a 9-year-old boy here in Cincinnati community. His name's Dominique. Shout out Dominique. Love you, buddy. He's the sweetest boy on the planet. But we do what we can. I think leadership is what we were talking about before we hit the record button, which is just showing up, setting a precedent every single time.
Yeah. And I think that's what I've learned in the new chapter of my life, is that rest is part of the work.
Yes.
Like, the martyring is not healthy. Obviously, it's never not healthy, but it's almost like you can only do so much when you're doing all the things. But when you begin to like recognize that next level, and which is really exciting in this next chapter, because I think, we did our 20-year anniversary, and I'm like, maybe I should have learned this like 10 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. If I learned this 20 years ago, maybe. But ultimately, we're where we are for the right reason, right? Like, it took me 20 years to be 20 years smarter.
Yes.
And maybe now it's time to put it into action,
Yes. And I carry that wisdom back to Hey Brother Co, because every single week we're like, what if we did this? What if we knew to do this? Well, hey, we're just figuring it out. We're just starting. We're moving forward. It's that you can't learn unless you learn, frankly.
That's it. There it is. All right. Well, we're going to flip them over. You ready for the back?
I was born ready.
Okay, let's do
All
it.
right, let's
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
So on the back of my mask, I've got 3 words. I have anxiety or fear, and that's because well, first of all, I have a kind of a chronic, a generalized anxiety, something that I've dealt with my whole life, and it makes things like even coming on this podcast a little scary at first, but something I'm willing to fully embrace, frankly. And it definitely, man, I'll remember. I remember what it was like to sit for medical school interviews, and most of them were on Zoom. Those were terrifying. I mean, you're having your whole life reduced down to a piece of paper. You want to talk about anxiety? Having your whole life, the merits of your entire life, set in stone by a single person on one decision in a 15-minute interview. You have to prove your worth. There is nothing more anxiety inducing than that, I feel like. Definitely been feeling that a lot lately, feeling a lot of pressure around medical school, feeling that anxiety. And then I have pain. I've been dealing with a lot of pain lately, Ashanti. As I said, I herniated a disc in my back. It's caused a lot of sciatic pain, which is pain that radiates down my leg. It's more of a chronic pain now, so it kind of comes and goes as it likes to. I can work out, but not in the same capacity. So there's a lot of guilt and shame around that. Not being able to, like, not being the athlete that I was a year ago. John Cole and I, who you spoke with a few episodes ago, he and I tried to do a Murph on Memorial Day, and he crushed it. And I threw up about 8 times, which is something that, like, that was a gut punch for me. I mean, literal gut punch. As I'm like leaning over in Central Park, leaning over like on my knees, throwing up on the ground. I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm just not where I was.
For all those out there that don't know, what is a Murph? Because I don't think I know
Yeah,
it. I don't know
sorry.
either.
A Murph is a fitness challenge that is done in memoriam of a man whose name I can't think of right now. Done on Memorial Day. The thought is you do a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300 squats, followed by another mile at the end. And it is absolutely brutal. And people will do it with a weight pack. We did not. We did not do that. I made it about halfway through before I started throwing up all over the place. And instead of continuing to talk about my own throw up, we'll talk about the next word.
Thank you for teaching us. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course, of course.
Yeah.
And John absolutely crushed it for that. I'm proud. That's something that I'm proud of in myself, is not feeling jealous or ashamed of my own performance, instead being able to embrace and support and celebrate my friend who did a phenomenal job. In the past, I think I would have definitely carried that with me. But it is the inner work that I've gotten from Hey Brother Co. and from men's work in general that has allowed me permission to celebrate my brothers when they do cool stuff, instead of feeling like, well, why am I not doing that? And then the third one is probably the most relevant at this point. My third word right here is inadequate. So we talk a lot about imposter syndrome in medicine, which nobody ever feels like they're enough. Unfortunately, we do have some ways to quantify that. We have a rank system at Cincinnati. I have goals. My rank is not where I would like it to be right now. We closed out the year about a week and a half ago. It was brutal. That was a gut punch. That was one of the first year of medical school was one of probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. There were so many days where I felt like, man, I don't belong here. And I call back to being in this leadership position, Ashanti, and I'm like, wow, I'm supposed to represent my peers? And like, here I am, I can't even remember this disease, or I can't even catch this in clinic, or my preceptor in the clinic, general surgery, doesn't think that I'm, on pace or whatever. Medical students are seen through a lens that a lot of people in our society are not. And it is unfortunate. You take the most neurotic people you could possibly imagine, you stick them all in one room, and you've got future physicians.
Thank you. Thank you for that, brother. That word, I mean, actually, a couple of things I have left blank. That word is one that I resonate with a lot. And I think, and I've been thinking about this right now, like where our office is moving. So, and I'm looking around. We have people coming to help us move today. My men's team is coming tonight to help me move. And I got this bookshelf right here that's full of books. I mean, I got a cabinet over there that's still full of cabinet stuff. I'm like, you're moving in a few hours. What's going on? It's like, I sometimes feel like in this. So anyway, let me give to the words, and then I'm gonna. The word inadequate is it needs. It's man. Okay. Oh goodness gracious. Okay.
You steal my word again, huh?
And well, you're inspiring this thought today. So the first two that I had: worried, self-doubt, and I think self-doubt connects to this part of inadequate of this leadership journey of working really hard because I don't Like I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of like what it looks like at the end to be like, yeah, you didn't XYZ, you know? And I I think people who know me know that I give my best. I give all my all. And on the other side of that part, when you talked about your worry of the health of men, like I've been realizing that like my health is not where I want it to be either. And I think about these two pieces of the health is like, okay, right now, like, and this is mask off, right? We're on the back, right? So
Oh yeah.
like my insurance got stopped. I got a credit card stole, or somebody stole my credit card number, so I had to close a credit card. I was paying my insurance with my credit card, and so when I got the new card, like I don't remember any notifications about, hey, we need a new card. And I went to the doctor for some pain in my back, and they were like, oh, you don't have insurance. I was like, of course I do. I pay automatically every month. What are you talking about? They're like, well, got to call XYZ. And I'm like, you made the appointment. I called they made the appointment. My appointment is right now. They're like, nothing we can do for you. You can pay out of pocket. I'm like, well, how much? They're like, $150. I'm like, what? Like, I mean, like, yeah, I could find it, but I didn't come here prepared. My copay is $10, $20, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so, but that part for me is like, how did that happen?
Mm.
How did it happen that I didn't know that my medical insurance was lapsed? How did I not know that? I'm a smart person. I'm a conscious person. I think health insurance is important. I'm not a person who thinks I don't need it. Like I want it because I believe in taking care of my health, you know, intellectually, but actively and action, I somehow didn't take the actions of not having insurance right now says you must not care about it too much. But because I work so hard on my service to others, I often let myself get neglected. Let me say it a different way. I neglect myself. That's the best way. And I think that part is one where I'm like, okay, Ashanti, you're gonna have to align these a little bit better. You care about the health of men, you care about your own health. And if you do, and you know health insurance is important, get it fixed. Well, there's all these rules in California about, oh, you gotta wait till November to open enrollment period. Like, no, but I need it now. I need insurance right now. Like, what do you mean I gotta wait till November? Like, what if I'm hurting now? And so all the rules that get in the way are systemic. But what do you do when you're like, when everyone's like, oh, you have to open enrollment is not happening right now? I'm like, but what about what do I do? So all these things that now I know I'm sure if I sit down long enough, talk to the right people, I can figure it out. But all these things is like, okay, I'm moving my office today. I mean, I do have a back pain. So all these as I navigate these conversations with men, it's like, oh yeah, that's a mirror. Is that a window I'm looking at? Oh, that's a
Oh.
mirror. He's holding up the mirror right there. He's holding up the mirror. Yeah, that's my word. Oh, I'm looking. I see if I don't get this and if I don't get this thing fixed, I'm gonna be seeing that thing down there, down the line, right? The window. I'm looking out a window of what's gonna happen next. Now, if I don't take care of this stuff right here in the mirror, you know. So those are the things that continually give me awakenings to having deeper conversations around these topics, you know.
Man, there's so much that comes up when you say these things. First of all, it's something you talk a lot about in mentorship is as a teacher, you don't see your students' failures as their own. You see them you talk a lot about this change of language, how we start to see it as a systematic failure. And I want to offer that same courtesy to you and say, look, if you go to the doctor's office and they're sticking you with a big bill and it's a sudden onset of ridiculous costs because your health insurance got wiped or whatever, I mean, that's not, my man, that is not an Ashanti branch fault. Like that is a fault of our system, and it's unfortunate. And I think in my clinical practice, I will take inspiration from that sentiment. I think it's really important in today's day and age that we see our patients as an amalgam of all of the conditions that we have created in society around them, frankly. And this feels like, as far as you talked about inadequacy, this feels like a perfect opportunity for me to say your life mission is such a beautiful one. The labor that you take on is incredibly, in many dimensions, probably thankless. And I wanted to express gratitude to you because you were willing to step away from a promising life in STEM to teach the kids, to reach out and connect with boys. It allows people like me now, years later, to then begin paving that pathway in STEM, to have those conversations in medicine, right? You talk about how all the time how you walked away from being an engineer. And I think to myself, well, because he did that, I can do this now. Because he did that, I can hug my friends in class. I can set that precedent. Because he did that, we can have hard conversations, and physicians can go in front of our lecture halls and cry and say, I've had a hard week. And when a physician cries, Ashanti, it is a beautiful thing. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I forgot who said it recently. I was listening to a podcast and they were like, one of the best things you can do, and I think it was Wayne Dyer, he's like, the best thing you can do when somebody gives you a compliment is to say thank you. And I often don't feel I often don't feel like sometimes I have to be careful because I want to feel like, yes, that's me, but I'm also I've been trained to in this other way of like, no, that's not for me. That's for somebody. That's the acknowledgement for someone else. It's thanks to, and not even just let myself be able to say thank you. And so thank you. And I was still trying to explain away the well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. And I'm learning that from mentors. I think I didn't have a mentor growing up. So I didn't have a mentor till later in life, like way later. And I was already running a mentoring organization, really not only knowing intuitively what I was doing, like what I wish somebody had done for me, what I wish somebody had been there for me. And so now that I get to learn this on this other side is to say, okay, practice what you're saying, practice what you're preaching. Thank you.
It's an ongoing practice. I mean, I look at, as I said before, my research interests are in men's health. Do you know how hard it is to find a physician who aligns with that philosophy? I mean, it is. I have been to the emergency department, the family medicine department, neurology, dermatology. I mean, there are studies that exist that posit such terrible things about men's health. We talk about 2.6 to 1 ratio of women to men after the age of 85 because the men are dying. We talk about this 7-year age gap or 6.5, whatever it is. We talk about this male isolation epidemic. The Surgeon General declares in 2023 this this thing that acutely affects men. And yet here we are talking about, well, there's no mentors in medicine our men's health club at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine was axed last year, unfortunately. And I imagine that's just because of a lack of interest, which is just, man. But I will say that work, men's work, still finds its way into medicine. And if you still question my gratitude, I'll give you an example. So a few weeks before school ended, and I'm telling this story with her permission, a classmate of mine came up to me and just started like spouting all of this information. And she was telling me a story of how she was sexually harassed by somebody at the hospital. And I guess that's as much detail as I'll go into about that. But I was able to, because of the precedent, the emotional precedent set by men like yourself, I was able to listen. And instead of assuming what she wanted, instead of acting aggressively, whatever, I just listened. I said, well, how can I be here for you right now? And we walked down together. We went directly to student affairs. We reported it. And now she feels safer. She feels like she can go places that she hasn't gone. I'm sharing this with her permission. I'm very excited about that. I mean, it's things like that I owe to people like you, frankly. I wouldn't have the emotional tools and skills if not for men like you setting the precedent early.
Well, I appreciate you. And I thank you for those words. I think that you're actually taking those things and putting it into action. I hope what I can do in this work is like you're working with Johnny Coles, working with the boys at the school there. And I know that it went beautifully. He had those moments of rocky road in the moment in the middle. And it was just like, I was glad he reached out and asked me a few questions. And I'm like, I'm going to do my best, as I don't know all the context, but from what you're telling me, here's my thoughts. And I think the journey of being able to say, like I'm not in this for, I wasn't like, hey, you got to sign up a contract with me. It was like, oh, how can I support you? Like, hey, you were doing the work. This is the work. And I wish there was somebody for me to call when I was trying to do this work in 2004. Yeah. Like, I mean, I remember students getting mad, like in my school, the teachers were like, why do you have a club with all the men? And I'm like, you don't see these young men have emotionally unavailable for each other, for themselves. You don't like, oh, And I think because it's been just the way it's always been, no one thought that we should do something about it, right? And I think, and I had to help the girls in my class who on Thursdays when lunch was coming in and I was kicking them out, like gently and carefully, they were like, "Oh, this is the Women Haters Club," and I'm like, "Stop saying that, stop saying that,"
Yeah.
because then the young men who are really deep in their ego, they're like, I'm not a woman hater. What are you talking about, right? And I had to help the young women say, "Hey, look, I don't know how to run a club for you. I'll buy you lunch." They're like, "No, we don't want lunch. We want a club." And I'm like, well, "What am I going to tell you about how to be a woman? I don't have that skill." And so I think what they did, those young women in my school did, they pushed me to find a woman at the school who was passionate. And that's when the young women program started. But it was like, I don't know, what am I going to do? How am I going to do that work, right? And I think that the kids and the young people need it, and to have adults who say, okay, well, what are you looking for? Like you did, you made yourself available for that person. Like, how can I support? How can I support? Tell me, like those girls in my class who always hung out in my class. So, Thursdays was the days I got to send them out. They know every Thursday we have a meeting, but it was a thing that they were like, I was like, what do you need? Tell me what you need. Don't be upset with me. Tell me what I can do to support you, knowing that I can't run a club for you per se. Right. And so I think that those are the journeys of like educators, men like yourself, doctors, whatever profession, the STEM world and the education world, being able to take what we've learned and how do we share it back, and and so thank you for doing that, for putting it back into action,
Yeah, I mean, one of my best friends in this life, Blaze, is a teacher in North Carolina. God bless him. And he talks about. Let me just say this: I feel like I see it as a blessing in and of itself that those girls came to you and they're like, we want a club, because the students that come to him don't ever come to him looking for connection. They have not been kind to him, and I feel awful. But that's not my realm. Teaching's not my realm. So he'll come to me. He'll be like, I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling to connect with these kids. They're very disrespectful. The administration won't listen. I know you talk about that a lot. What it means to not have a supportive administration, and teachers, man, teachers.
Yeah.
I can mentor one-on-one. I feel good in that capacity. Man, you make it 12, 15, 30. Oh, geez.
5 times a day.
5 times. Yeah.
It's almost like I unfairly I compare when I talk to educators about, educator like burnout and whatever. I'm like, you wouldn't tell a doctor to be like, diagnose these 30 people at the same time, and then you get blamed if they don't do well. You may do that, but you get blamed for them not, like, okay, 30 of you need different things. You're at different levels, but I can't do one-on-one. I gotta, and I think I was like, what we do is we know that the profession is the people who are in the profession know it's complex. And I think people on the outside sometimes don't see it. And so, please let your friend know, if there's we have lots of free tools that we have on our website, and we have others that, that have cost to them, but please have them reach out. And however, I believe in the building healthy relationships with young people. And I think it starts with that, and it starts with a kind of us going first, right? Like we think, because the student-teacher relationship is designed, is like the teacher teaches and the student learns. But the way Ever Forward Club started is I was like, I'm going to be the student. I'm going to buy you lunch. I'm going to be the benefactor. I'm going to buy you lunch, and I'm going to have you teach me. I'm going to be the student. And I think it's that place of understanding that, that quote that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's what happens in teaching, is that when teacher education doesn't teach you that. It's like, you're in charge, classroom management, manage your class. Don't, it's all these rules about, yeah, I'm in charge. And then you realize when you walk in there, no, you ain't. No. Now unless they let you. Now the only way you're in charge is if they let you, because all they got to do is decide, we ain't doing nothing you got to say. You are just talking to yourself. You're just like, am I talking to myself? Yes, you are talking to yourself. Maybe talking to the one person in the front who would always listen, because that's just in their makeup. But the other ones are like, I ain't listening to this person. This person's tripping over here, and that's the work.
I'm going to use this section as a test of whether or not he listened to this podcast. I'm going to be like, did you catch? I used your name. Ashanti's got some advice for you if you tune in. So I'd love to, with your permission, I'd love to shift gears and talk about health, man, because it came up. It came up earlier and on the back of your mask, and it's one of those things that comes up. We all acknowledge, men are killing themselves more often. We're dying earlier. We're suffering. Public health stats for men, American Academy Institute of Boys and Men and Equimundo, all those reports not looking good. I would love to talk about that because I feel like it's something that in men's work we do not touch.
Yeah, as a medical professional, what are you like? What do you see it from one end, right? And I see it from the patient end usually, right? So, like, where do we want to go? Like, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, men are not going to the doctor. We
I'm that
don't.
man.
Yeah, right. Me too. And that's funny because I'm a medical student and I like using stories. And this one feels especially relevant as I feel it on the upper left part of my back. My partner found some off-colored splotches on my upper back about 2 weeks ago. And I talked to my PCP. He goes, "Let's go have you see a dermatologist." I went to see the dermatologist. They go, "Yeah, we're going to take those out and biopsy them." And I got the results back, about a week ago. And they said, "Those are precancerous. We need to cut them out." So I'm sitting here with 15 stitches in my back. Just this morning, I got these. It's something that on the drive home, was a long drive from the derm office. I was reflecting on, man, if not for a strong woman in my life, I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, oh, off-color patches, those just happen. We have those, whatever. And they were moderate precancerous, which means they have a strong chance of developing into a melanoma. Specifically, one of the things I wrote about for Hey Brother Co. in my piece about why men don't go to the doctor is this study that found, I think it was that melanomas happen about twice as often in women, but men die twice as much as women to melanoma. Very, very interesting, complex stat, but it speaks volumes about the ways in which we just do not care about our health. Ashanti, we do not. This is where I want to break in with research because there's not enough. I go to present my research proposals to different departments, and oftentimes, the way you do this in medicine is you show them current literature. Well, what does the current literature say? Well, the current literature says nothing because nobody cares. For the first time in history, we're turning more towards women's health. We're turning more towards women's bodily autonomy, which is phenomenal. We're talking about women's sexual health as more than just pregnancy and birth delivery, but we're not talking about men's health. We're not. We're letting these men kill themselves.
So, first of all, thank you. And when you talked about, like, you probably would have just let it go. You're like, oh, okay, no big deal. My personal story around this is that, like, let's say I have a high tolerance for pain, which I think I do.
Okay.
I'm like, it'll get better.
Yeah.
It'll get, it's just, I mean, we take some Advil, we take some aspirin, we take some over the counter something. Okay, I talked to the pharmacy at Walgreens. Hey, I got this little thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, just take a little bit of that and take a little bit of that. And I'm like, which one should I take? Both of them? And I get my medical advice right there, and I buy the box of whatever, way too expensive, more than I want to pay, but it's better than the alternative in my mind, right? So I'm like I'm trying to solve the problem. Now, I'm not against medicine. I've met people who were like, well, I don't like taking that medicine. I'm like, dude, your arm is falling off. Do you see?
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? It's actually hanging on the side. And they're like, no, it'll be okay. I put some ibuprofen on it. You're like, all right, brother, And I think, how often do we have men who hold us accountable? Like, I'm on a men's team. So if a man was talking about some pain, and men would ask, hey, have you got that checked out? And no one's going to mother you. Like, we use that language. No one's going to mother you in this space.
Yeah.
But men are going to ask you and call you in and say, hey, you said 2 weeks ago that thing was hurting. Did you not go do something about it? It's not to nag you. It's to say, like, let us hold each other accountable to being our best self. And I would sell you out if you told me you were in pain, you're not doing anything about it, and I just say, oh, okay, you're a tough guy. I would consider that selling you out. That's what we call it in our language. And so I think it happens because maybe how men were raised, right? Mm-hmm. Suck it up, man up.
Mm-hmm.
Grow some, right? Whatever they tell you in your community of how you were raised, it's also part of those things. And I know I only go when it hits level 8, 9, or 10. And I go there and I'm like, and they say, how does it feel? I'm like, like 8, 9, or 10. And I'm like, yeah, like 8, 9, or 10. And they're like, well, you don't look like you're in a lot of pain. I was like, well, I've been nursing it for, That's where it's at. And I'm like, I wouldn't have come here if it wasn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm only here because I'm like I'm at the place, but because I'm not wincing or I'm not. I think sometimes they're looking for the external, and I'm like, no, it's been hurting for weeks. I just been holding the pain inside, and I wonder if those are some things that happen too. And when you said like men die twice as much from melanoma, maybe they saw it and they said the same thing. Oh, you know what? It'll be okay. I'll put a patch on it. I'll put some ointment on it, right? And I think without knowing, without having somebody in your life who's like, hey, maybe you should check that out. Maybe you don't want to check it out, but maybe you should check it out just for the sake of it doesn't make you weak or it doesn't make you soft. It doesn't make you less of a man to be like, I'm in pain. Pain is human. Same thing with emotions, same thing with sadness and fear and worry. And if we use that, maybe, in the medical profession, if they can begin saying pain is human, it's not genderized. Pain, if you feel pain, I'm not gonna ever deliver a baby. I'm never gonna know that pain, but I know what it's like to have my leg swollen 3 times the size it normally is, and then go to the doctor and they're like, well, you don't look like you're in pain. I'm like, no, it's hurting really bad, and I think I'm having to like, should I scream? Should I scream? Should I yell? And I think I don't even, I wonder. My brother, say this last thing, but my brother was stabbed in the butt recently, and my brother has his own challenges, that we've talked about many times, and he wants to leave the hospital early. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, brother? Like, and I have to be careful not to get too frustrated because but I'm like, you're walking around the streets and you have been stabbed, and apparently the wound was pretty deep, and so it's just like, what is he feeling? Like either you're not feeling it or you have just turned off the fact that there's something there that is actually, it's actually visible, right? That you are, some of the pains are maybe more internal where you can't feel them as a, like my pain in my back. I can't show people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, it hurts.
Yeah.
And they almost sometimes are like, well, maybe. And you have to like, how do I explain it to you in a way that you get that I'm feeling this, and without having to raise my voice or like be squirming on the floor without, and so I think I just wonder how we communicate that,
Wow. I hope your brother's okay, first of all.
He's coming around. He's back. He's getting some help. So
Okay,
I think the key is getting him some more help. But yeah,
man, there's this thing I think is really funny. There's this TikTok doctor who makes content. It's hilarious, and he came up with this thing called the farmer pain scale. So if a farmer comes into a rural clinic, and it's because he was in so much pain that he couldn't work anymore, you're like, oh, that's bad. But if a farmer comes into a clinic and he's in so much pain that his wife didn't have to drag him out there, you're like, oh, let's get the defibrillator. This is real bad. As men, we are not accustomed to taking care of ourselves. And I think there's a lot of unconscious items at play. I think it's even more implicit than just I have to prove that I can take this pain. I am manly. I don't need help. I think it's when you go to the hospital, here's what happens. You're seen by, most statistically, probably a male physician, which means you have to admit you're in pain to another man, right? Or you have to admit you're in pain to a woman. Both of those are equally terrifying, I think, implicitly for many men, right? And what does that say about men who claim to be protectors, who claim to want to invest in the people around them and be protective, right? You talk about, melanoma is a great example. Guess what? What does cancer do? Cancer makes you weak. Not having cancer cut out of you, you will get physically weak. You want to talk about things that make you look weak? Cachexia makes you weak, which is a manifestation of cancer. I think as men, we need to start reframing how we see medicine and how we engage with it, because wow. And this is a call into myself, Ashanti, because I've got Johnny Cole in my ear twice a day going, hey man, therapy would suit you. You'd love. I'm like, nah, I'm so busy. We have an exam this week. I have an exam next week. I can't swing it. I can swing it. Anyone can swing it. You can swing. If you're listening to this, you can swing therapy. We all can. And I think we all should, because the suicide is the number one. I mean, I think in a lot of spaces, that is the one you'll hear about the most. I think that's the one we're all familiar with for men. It's very sad. I haven't had a ton of close hand experiences with suicide, but when I was in college, I got a call. Let me dig back and offer a little bit of context. When I was in high school, I was in a leadership position my senior year, and I had to give a speech to the incoming freshman class of high school. And I was like, how can I be the most acceptable to these young men? I went to an all boys Catholic high school. That could be a whole episode in and of itself, but I won't go there. I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I gave them all my phone number. And I was like, if you guys ever need anything, if it's 2 a.m. and you're lost and you're scared or you're hurt, give me a call. We'll make sure you're taken care of. And that was an overextension of myself from the get go. But I wanted to be helpful. It turns out for the next year, I got nothing but prank calls all day, every day. Because what did I do? I gave my phone number to a bunch of 14-year-olds. What's going to happen, right? You know this. Well, it happens that my junior year of college, so 3 years later, I was a junior or senior in college, it's midnight, I get a call from a guy, not a kid, who had my number saved because of that incident. This is the only time a call had ever been serious because of since I had given them my phone number, that this is the first time it had ever been serious. And he said, I had no one else to turn to. He wouldn't even tell me what was going on. He wouldn't even tell me which is okay. You don't have to. I think he just wanted to hear another voice. I had nobody to call, couldn't tell my parents, couldn't tell my brothers, sisters. I just needed to hear somebody, and I needed someone to hear me. And I could hear like cars in the background, so I'm obviously suspicious and a little scared. Where is this young man at? Where is his heart at right now? And this is like, medicine is only one side of suicide, pre-treatment or post-treatment. Oftentimes the hospital sees people after they've tried or succeeded. But men, what are we doing? Right?
Yeah.
Why is it that this young man feels like he needs to call someone whose number he saved just by chance years ago? Right? Why are we not creating social support networks for this young man where he feels like he can be received?
First of all, thank you for sharing that story. And
Yeah.
I've had lots of middle of the night calls, and for young men who are either just feeling the overwhelm of emotion, they've maybe been drinking or whatever, and they're like, Branch, I just I'm feeling like I'm lost. And I'm like, okay, tell me where you're at. Where are you? Are you safe? And you try and like find ways of just like listening and being clear about where where you are. Like, can I come? Are you need me to come meet you? No, I'm too far away. Like whatever the things are. And so thank you for being there for that young man. And I think imagine if he wrote it that many years ago, if he at least in that moment thought, I may need this, or maybe I need it now, but I'm afraid to call. And what happens when it's like the same thing like going to the doctor. You just waited too late. You waited till the overwhelm of the emotion of the situation got so big and so heavy that now you're literally dragging yourself, and you're like, who do I call? I've literally had moments where, I have mentors, and one of them I had to tell him, like, there was one night I was just having a lot of stuff going on, and I'm like, I didn't want to bother you. And he said, right now we're sitting here having this conversation, right? He's like, do I look bothered? I said, no. He's like, I need you to know that this is just an extension of the phone. When I'm back at my home and you're at your home, I can't sit across from you and have a meal with you. The phone is the only way. So I need you to know that if I'm not looking bothered right now, that no call you could ever make would make me feel bothered. Is my only way to connect with you when I'm not in presence with you. And this is me as an adult hearing it from another adult. And I think I'm so good at this with my young people. I remind them that I'm there. And I oftentimes have to feel like I deserve it too. Like I deserve the, like, I don't want to feel entitled to it, but I'm so grateful for it, but I deserve to be able to go to someone and say, I'm having this situation. And I think that's where we need, and that's what I think that young man needed. And that's what probably a lot of those young men in that room who come in those circles, and the work that you do either in front or behind the scenes to make sure that they get to continue building that. And what they're going to do next year with growing the circle almost double, right? That's a sign, right? That's a sign of like the need is there. And we have to get the adults in the building to get out of the way, because oftentimes the biggest problem is not the young men wanting the help. It's the adults who can't see it first, doesn't listen to it second, or get in the way when somebody actually is trying to come offer it. And I know that I told, Johnny Cole, I said, listen, just know that whatever's happening right now, you got to take a breath and know that we don't get to be in control, sadly. We're outsiders coming into these schools,
Yeah.
And that's the work.
With us and with him, it's personal, right? This is Oberlin High School that he's doing his program at, which is his former alma mater. And it's like, it's first of all, such a beautiful thing to watch that bloom in front of me. And, I won't spend too much time on this, but he does, often wonder, like, is this effective? Am I doing the right thing? How am I doing as a mentor? I'm like, you're phenomenal. These kids love you. And that doesn't surprise me even a little bit. He's such a talented facilitator. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It does. That's the thing is, I think I'm sensing a familiarity between you and I that says we are so hyper focused. Our locus of control is other people. So we exclude ourselves from that conversation of self-help. We exclude ourselves from that conversation of external help. So when we say you should take care of yourself, when we say, you should go see a doctor, when we say, shoot, we should start taking care of our health, we are inherently saying you should do that, not me. Not me. No, I whatever, man. I exist for other people. No, you don't. You don't. It's not selfish to say you don't exist for other people. I don't think so. You can't serve other people if your glass is all the way empty. Talk about half full, half empty. How about full empty? I know that feeling. I know you know that feeling in education. I know you know that feeling. I know that feeling in medicine. Yeah. I've seen it in my more academically inclined classmates. I've seen it in myself. We all get trapped in this bubble where we're like, it's for other people. No, it's actually selfish to say that, I think, because you can't be a leader. You can't be a steward. You can't facilitate if you're not fully there. Yeah. I don't think so.
I know the empty. I know the feeling of that, and I don't know. It's a powerful feeling. Listen, I am so. First of all, thank you for what you shared, and thanks for bringing it to the health. I think it's not only a conversation in the ether. It's a mirror. It's a mirror.
Oh,
right
me
here.
too.
Like,
me too.
Hey, guess what? And I think that I'm so glad that your partner saw it and did whatever it was, whether it was nurturing or annoying, however it was, to get you to go in and get it checked. And so thank you for listening and having your heart open to hear it. And for the men who don't have that out there, if you're feeling your body telling you a message, please listen.
Please listen. Please
don't
listen.
wait till it's too late. Don't wait till it's too late. And that's emotionally, socially, physically, all the ways that feelings come up. And so, listen, I want to appreciate you. And I hope that we get to get you back here again. I think we should probably have some more talks about men's health. And this is Men's Mental Health Month, not only, but we should not only have this conversation in the month of June and May, we should be having it all year long. So maybe we can think about, like, before you go back to school, or when I don't know what your summer break is like, or maybe during one of the breaks coming up, we will just say, we're going to have another health talk. Like, we're going to talk about some topics and some things that you're learning and that we should make men aware of. And let's do that.
I would love to. And I would also love to share that this summer, I'm actually going to help the infirmary of a boys camp in northern Minnesota. I'm so unbelievably excited. A lot of my classmates do research. It's very common in medical school to use the summer between first and second year medical school is your last existent summer. I'm like, no, respectfully, screw that. We're going to go help some kids learn and grow outside, away from screens, and have a good time. And if they bump or scrape their knee, or God forbid, break a femur, I'll be there. But absolutely, Ashanti, I would love nothing more.
Well, come back after summer. Maybe you'll have some beautiful conversations in summer that you could bring back. And what young men are saying? What are young men saying? And what are they needing? Outside of the scrapes and bruises, what are they saying in their hearts? So maybe we can do that. Is there any way that you want people to connect with you and they learn about your writing? Oh, you talked about the article you wrote, so I would love to link to that. So if it's linkable, I would love to link to the article you wrote about why men don't go to the doctor. Please let us know if there's a way that men can read your writing with Hey Brother Co. Like, where? Yeah.
Well, you can check out our website, www.heybrotherco.com. A lot of our writing is in the blog section. I've written about men and the gym, which I'd love to connect with about some point, because that's a whole can of worms, can of snakes, really. I've talked about men in healthcare. I'm actually writing another piece on my own experiences with healthcare as a man, especially one in the medical field. Our other writer, Lewis Kendall, is phenomenal. His pieces are on there. We do retreat reflections. We have poems on there. I like to write poetry. So please connect with us on there, connect with us in our retreats, connect with us in our virtual spaces. Our men's groups open 6-week blocks. You'll see those online via Instagram at Hey Brother Co. Feel free. I mean, that when I talk about this work being thankless, Ashanti, I think about how hard it is to grasp an audience. And that's I know very well that when I write a very long, thorough piece that is empirically sound and well-researched, that it might reach one person. But if that one person gives it a strong go, then I've done my job.
It's reaching folks through, we share it once I see things posted, we're communicating in that way. So we'll keep doing our part. And as we do our part, we will just let the universe take it where it's supposed to go,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for collaborating with us.
Brother John, thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for this conversation. And I'm looking forward to future communication with you and your team.
Thank you, Ashanti. Likewise.
Thank you. Folks, Brother John and I, we just shared our masks publicly, but you don't have to share yours publicly. You can share yours anonymously at millionmask.org. We want to thank you again, Brother John, to be here today with this conversation. And men, take care of your health.
Absolutely. Go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor.
Go to the doctor.
That's a mirror and a window. I'm saying it to you out the window, and I'm telling myself in the mirror.
I'm literally looking at my reflection right now. I'm like, can you believe this?
Let's go. Bye, everybody. Take care. Be well. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie and graphics by Kelly Wong. Guests are managed by Dan Paloma, and the podcast is edited by Samuel Matingo. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast, and for every guest that has been a part of the show, you are now a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is brought to you by the Ever Forward Club, and if you like what you've heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share this with someone. We look forward to having more conversations that matter. And please remember, there is more to you than anybody can see by just looking at you.